Kath, it is so nice to see you back. I can tell by your background you are in the office in at home back in Adelaide, and welcome back to Australia.
Thanks, Ali. Gosh, I know it was only not only, it was 6.5
Only,
weeks, but it
yes,
feels like it was about 3 months. So super, super wonderful to be back in my own home.
it
It's nothing
is.
quite like sleeping in your own bed, hey?
Oh my goodness. And it was a whirlwind trip. I know we caught up a handful of times while you were away. And I know it was a really big trip, but your husband must be happy to have you home. Everything's starting to get back into sort of normality and rhythm and things like that.
Yeah, getting there, one day at a time. Again, this morning, wide awake at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
still trying to get through the jet
Jet
lag,
lag.
but yeah, getting there.
No, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased. And before we jumped on and hit record, we were just sharing some interesting things that happened to you while you were away. And I just think there's some great stories there. And I'd love for you to tell us about the one you were talking about when you were driving through South Africa. What was going on, Kath?
Yeah, so basically it's interesting how little things just catch your attention sometimes. So I'm
Yeah.
driving along in Pretoria, hyper alert because, driving in another country has its stresses.
Oh,
And my brother had helped me connect my phone to CarPlay, which was just such a blessing because I could, access Google Maps.
yeah.
And I decided on this particular morning to listen to few tracks that I had on my phone. And for whatever reason, I pressed some button. I don't know what I did, and my phone kind of just randomly went through, like a different tracks
Okay.
just came up on my phone. And because I'm now driving and concentrating, I didn't want to kind of try and hit the phone
No.
to pause or stop or change the playlist. And
Mm.
suddenly one of the tracks came on, and it was a teaching by Graham Cook, and it was like track 5 of part 3, just a
Yeah.
random. And suddenly this voice comes through the system, and he says this line that just really caught my attention. And it was this, he said, every situation has already been assigned an outcome. And then he went
Mm.
on to explain it's an outcome that God has designed, for
Wow.
us. And in that moment, I was driving along to, we had a lot happening when we were in South Africa, and it just helped me to recognize that so much of what I was attempting while I was there is to control a situation towards an outcome.
Mm.
And yeah, in that moment, I just was reminded, well, what control do I actually have?
Yeah.
And actually not much, really.
Really?
And that's okay because
Mm,
it didn't matter how you know, what time I got to the destination, or how the day was going to unfold.
mhm,
The situation already had been assigned an outcome. And in that moment, it just gave me so much peace. And I realized, numerous times over the next couple of weeks, this
mm,
one liner just would pop up in my mind and just remind me, hey, Kath, just, especially when in those moments when you're sort of stressed and you're pushing and you're just trying to
yeah.
make things go a certain way. It was like,
Yeah.
actually, you know what? Just take a breath,
Mm,
relax. God's got this.
yeah.
I don't have to make this happen.
So what does that give you then? How did that change your state?
Oh, it just filled me with a sense of peace. I could
Mm,
really almost like, it's that metaphorical just letting go of the need to control
mm,
something that really wasn't for me to control at all. And the
mm.
peace that just came with that. And I'll share a story. So, right, it's been with me right until coming home. So on the way home back to Australia, our flight was delayed. So, got on the plane in Johannesburg, and we're sitting on the plane, and sitting on the plane and sitting on the
Mm.
plane. And
Oh, that's a great feeling.
so the pilot's voice comes over the intercom and he says, "Oh, just letting us know we've got a small glitch. The cargo door won't close for whatever reason.
Okay.
But don't worry, there's a way to manually close this door, and we'll be on our way as soon as they get the door closed." So we ended up leaving Oliver Tambo about an hour later than schedule.
Hmm.
And he also informed us that Elon Musk was launching a rocket into space, and that potentially we'd have to,
Oh, for
go
goodness
go into
sakes.
some holding pattern so we don't collide with any
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's smart.
any flying objects out on our flight path. And so,
Oh, wow.
long story short, we get to Australia late,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I had a connecting flight from Sydney to Adelaide, and so, your stomach starts churning and you start sort of
Mm.
thinking, and in the back of my mind, I thought, oh, but it'll be fine. I'm sure, can't quite remember, but I'm sure I had about 2 hours. So yeah, no, this is,
Hmm.
this leaves me about an hour. Hmm, maybe I'll make it. And again, I immediately, like, my default is to go into, I've got to do this. I've got to make it
Mm.
onto the next flight. So got off the plane like quickly, like speed walking to get to to passport control, get through
Yeah.
passport control, and get to baggage collection. And you realize it doesn't matter how fast you try and get through passport control, your
Hmm.
luggage is only going to come out when your luggage comes out.
Yes.
And I reckon the door that they couldn't close
Yeah.
in Joburg side was a
Couldn't
battle to
open.
open
Of
because it
course.
just took forever. And so
Yeah.
I'm standing there at the carousel and really like willing my suitcases to be like one
Mm.
of the first ones to spit out onto the carousel. And in that moment was just reminded, every situation's already been assigned an
Yeah.
outcome. And so whether I was going to make my next flight or not, like, I didn't have to
Hmm.
worry about it because God knows. And you know what? Even if I don't make the flight, it's not like I'm never going to get home.
No. That would be quite the story, wouldn't it? Cass traveled
Yeah.
the world, gets back, and she's stuck at the airport forever.
And
Yeah.
in that moment, I just had this flood of peace, and I
Yeah.
just could, I almost like, well, I did, I tangibly could feel my whole body just relaxing. And I
Yeah.
just went into I don't actually really, I'm not going to try and fight this. No point in fighting this.
Hmm.
And so when my bag eventually came out, I realized there's no ways I'm going to make my Adelaide flight.
Mm.
And it was fine. Went off to,
Hmm.
domestic check-in and was given a new flight for
Yeah.
probably about an hour and a half later than the original flight. And it
Okay.
really wasn't a train smash. And had I not heard that line
Mm.
when I did, I know that I would have gone into panic mode, stress mode, like, oh, this is the awful, I missed my flight, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just completely overwhelmed when it's not necessary.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? You could have been in that state of overwhelm, potentially still got the same later flight. Like everything probably still would have potentially come, orchestrated the same
Yeah,
story would have played out. But the feeling and the experience for you would have been vastly different.
yeah, yeah. And it was actually quite empowering to be there and to go, you know what? I'm not actually stressed about this.
Yeah, wow.
It was almost like an out of body experience because I
Yeah.
thought, Kat, this is just so not like you. But it was like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
No point in stressing, so it's
No,
not going to change anything.
no. I love that story. I love it for so many reasons. One, because how many times in life do we hear something, see something that we weren't searching for? You might be
Yeah,
scrolling on social media, you might be driving and see a sign, you might bump into somebody and somebody say something and things seem out of the blue. And
yeah,
yet it's something we're supposed to hear.
yeah,
It was a timely reminder. So I love that, but I love as much as that, what that reminder was for you and what that meant, that piece that you got to carry in a time where there was lots of chaos, where there was so many things that were outside of your control. And the reminder gave you that peace.
yeah. And you're so right because, had the circumstances been different and
Hmm.
had that same sort of track come onto the
Mm.
car. I'm sure there would be other seasons where that would have just kind of rolled over and I wouldn't
Yeah.
even have caught that one liner. But
Yeah.
I think because it was really impactful in that
Mm.
moment and in that season,
It's
it
for you.
literally just, I did actually eventually press rewind. When I got to the
Yeah.
other end, I like rewind, rewind, rewind to find that
Yeah.
track again, just so that I could re-listen. And are so grateful that yeah, these little miracles happen, when you
Mm.
sort of think it's fluke and you think, actually, no,
Yeah.
that's a tap on the shoulder, like, hey, Kath,
Yeah.
just I've got your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there really such a thing as fluke or coincidence? Or is there really, is there something
Yeah.
else going on in that space? And that's a really beautiful story. So, as we're sort of sitting here having this conversation, I'm thinking, okay, we can all resonate with your story at the airport. We all, like, I've got a story where we were driving in Scotland and my husband just took too long looking at the sights. And I'm like, we're going to miss our flight. We're going to miss our flight. So I know that feeling because we just arrived and I got to the place and I thought, you know what, we've missed our flight. And
Yeah.
I had to just settle with it and go, there'll be a solution. Plus, it's my husband's fault. He'll just have to deal with it. But I, tried to keep my peace. But it just so happened to turn out that the flight had been delayed, so we didn't even miss it. But yeah, no, we can all, I'm pretty sure everyone listening can resonate with that feeling of kind of turmoil and stress and a bit of overwhelm. But it's not necessarily in the airport, it's anywhere in life where we find ourselves in situations that are outside of our control. And it happens every day.
Yeah.
Every day, and we've every day got a choice. Are we going to sit in that turmoil and feel and experience and hang on to that knot in the stomach and what it does for our body? Or can we go, you know what? There is a way through this. There is an outcome, there is a solution, because here's the thing, there always is. We've
Yeah.
gotten this far in life, and
Yeah.
there's always a way through. There's always a solution.
And how many times have you experienced that the way things eventually unfold,
Mm.
would turn out better than what you,
What it was?
yeah, initially planned?
Yeah, and I often think about that and think about, with my work in I obviously won't share names or whatever, but
Mm,
with my work in the prison, and I'll often have girls come out to me, they'll say, can we pray? I'm going to courts this week. I want to be released this week. That's a hard thing to pray about, right? Because
yeah.
yes, of course. Nobody wants to be locked up. But then I ask them, so do you have somewhere safe to live? Oh, no, I don't. I don't have an address. I can't go back where I came from. And so
Wow.
you start
Yeah.
to sit in this space and go, okay, um, is there, what really is praying for a release, or how do we pray and trust that God's got this?
Yeah.
Because maybe he sees a bigger picture and maybe it is to be released, but maybe it's not because maybe other things need to be in place. And so that's been a really big challenge for me because often, when we pray, we've got kind of like this wish list, we've got this
Oh,
idea and
absolutely.
design
Yeah.
for what we think our good life would be.
Well, it's back to that whole wanting to control things. We do.
Yeah.
We have these ideas and we so badly want for our ideas to unfold the
Hmm.
way we think they should.
Because they're great
Yeah.
ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I
So,
think trusting that there is an outcome and a solution is a really beautiful thing to know that maybe it's a deeper trust that, God, or we're not believers, like the universe or, just how it is, that there is a better solution to what we think.
yes, and it's also not a case of, oh, well, you know what, I don't have to do anything because there's an outcome already assigned. So,
Mm.
like, I could have at the airport decided, well, I don't actually need to go and check in at domestic, departures because I'm going to get home and, God's got this and, it's going to
Mm.
magically happen. So
Yeah, no,
it's also not a case of throwing arms up in the air, not playing your
not doing
part.
anything.
I think
Mm.
we've all got a part to play. And I
Mm.
think there's wisdom and
Yeah,
discernment in what's the action that we need to take, but
yeah.
it's that whole balance of, yes, there's something for me to do, but I
Mm.
can hold this loosely enough that it doesn't, the outcome is often not in my
Mm.
hands.
Mm.
So yeah, and I love also it's not like for you in your story, it's not like, okay, well, we're just not going to pray.
No.
It's like, yeah, so we've got a role to play. And
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge for a lot of us. It's so where do we put our hands to and what do we do in
Mm.
action and what do we let go of and sit back and go, okay, well,
Mm.
um, yeah, which is not always so clear, is
It's
it?
not. And I think that's why I love having people like you in my world, or, having a coaching conversation, or a conversation with any of my kind of key people, because sometimes we can't see. But through
Yeah,
having that conversation with somebody else, either it becomes, it's revealed in our conversation, because there's something about speaking about it and bringing it to the
yeah,
light and getting it out of our thoughts and spoken. But sometimes it takes somebody else to go, hey, what's in your control, and to help us to see, because sometimes it is a bit blurry.
yeah. And I think the other thing that happens, I see it in my own world often, in me, my life,
Mm,
is that we live, I think, in such an instant world.
yes.
So we want things now,
Hmm.
and we have ideas and we want the fruition of them to be shown now.
Mm,
And so also it's this sense of, yes, we want an outcome and we want to control it, but we also want it instantly.
yeah.
And so back to the statement of, every situation is already assigned an outcome. Sometimes it's we the outcome is almost like inevitable, but it's the timing as well. And
Mm,
it's even letting go of the need to push and hurry and rush things and
yeah.
just having that sort of patience to just let it unfold in the right time.
Mm,
Because often, and it says in the Bible, God's timing is not our timing, and
hmm.
his ways are not our ways, and our
Yep.
understanding and his understanding are different.
Yeah.
And it's the challenge again to yes, take action, play our part, but almost not by rushing ahead,
Mm,
but by waiting and discerning the
mm,
timing as well. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, that's beautiful. I've noticed that timing usually takes longer. But I was
Yep.
talking with somebody the other day, and that morning we were talking about exactly this conversation. It was what's in our hand,
Yeah.
what's in God's hand, or in the hand that's outside of our control, kind of, what
Yeah.
can we do versus what's left to, because in their mind it was more about up to the universe. And so
Yes.
so we were
Yeah.
just having this conversation, and um, that morning, this particular person didn't have a job, didn't have all of these things that they were really hoping for, and yet had been actively trying to sort
Yeah.
out, but not feeling the stress, but realizing I've got a part to play, go do it.
Yeah.
I saw this person that evening, and they're like, since our conversation, I've got a job, and listed off all of, I've had something approved, and da da da. I was just like, wow, things can actually happen very, very quickly and surprisingly as well. And so that's
Yes.
the beauty when we can sit in this space, go, every situation has already been assigned an outcome.
Yeah. So it's given me, peace in the moment, in the journey while I was in it, but it also has given me so much peace for, now I'm back in Australia, so I'm no longer in
Yeah,
South Africa, and
yeah.
I'm no longer hands and feet on the ground there to continue
Hmm.
playing a part there, but I can be here with the peace that the continuation of what, the
Yeah,
circumstances, again, it's been assigned an outcome, and it's okay for me to be on the other side of the world. And it doesn't mean
yeah.
that, everything's going to fall apart. Not at all.
No, no.
Because things are as God intended them to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
that is peace, brings me peace. So, yeah.
And not only will it bring you peace, Kath, it's allowing that peace through you for the rest of the family. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, because when we can sit in this space in a calm way, that actually is contagious to those around us. People experience it and they feel it. And that
Yeah.
I'd much rather bring that wherever I go, into whatever situation. I don't know. You said it earlier. It's powerful, right?
Yes, it is. It is. And I
Mm,
think, sometimes it's a habit. If
mm.
I think back, sometimes it's a habit to want to kind of get so swept up in the chaos of, hey, you never guess what happened, and
Oh,
I missed my flight, and how terrible, and we like want to share this
because
dramatic,
yeah,
chaotic, like like you got to hear how bad it was,
yeah,
and even letting go of that sometimes, yeah, it takes intention and it takes practice, and
yeah,
it's yeah,
yeah. And it's there all the time. I saw this quote the other day. Said the opposite of triggers is, what do they call it? Oh, it was the word glimmers. That's right. I'm just trying to imagine it. And I was like, oh, it's such a corny word. But they were using the word glimmer to something that, speaks sort of life, and it's vibrant. And the quote was something about, if we intentionally look for these glimmers in our life,
yeah,
it can nourish us and give us confidence and help us to be positive. And I was thinking, yeah, it takes being intentional. And so
yeah,
I love that you just shared that, because we often want to have all the triggering stories, because me and you could get into a competition about who's had the worst travel experience, and it would be
yeah,
great. But it is about seeing the things that are actually working beautifully as well. And that
yeah,
takes an eye to see them. It takes being intentional every day, but the state that it creates in our being, just like that phrase spoke to you, it
yeah,
allows us to walk in peace. And so I guess for our listeners today, not sure what's going on in your world today. Um, Not sure, the chaos that perhaps you're walking in, but there's an outcome
yeah,
to the situation that you're currently in. There is a way through it. You don't have to force it. It will unfold. And so I hope today that Kath's story and that phrase, every situation has already been assigned an outcome. Even if you don't fully believe it, and this is just a crutch for your day today, take
yeah.
it as a crutch. Sometimes we need help walking. Sometimes we're a little bit, injured in life, and we just need that crutch. But the peace that comes with that you've shared today,
Yeah,
I would love, for all of us. I'm taking it with me on my day today. So
yeah.
thank you.
Oh no, it's a pleasure sharing, and always a pleasure chatting to you. And it's yeah, I'm just so grateful to be taking this through in this next sort of season, because
Yes,
also you get back home and it's I kind of want to, the line that rolls off my tongue is, oh, I've hit the ground running, and it's all
running.
and again, that's a choice. So I
Yeah.
think the reminder also is, we might not be able to choose the situation for sure,
Mm,
but we can choose what story to tell about the situation,
mm,
how we want to feel about the
yeah.
situation, and if you wanting to feel all sort of, I don't know, the adrenaline and the craziness and the busyness, then go for it.
Dial up that story,
Yeah.
make it amazing.
But if you want to just have peace,
Yes.
it's available.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Amen.
yeah,
Beautiful. Well, thanks for the share. And just a reminder, if you're, want to talk about what's going on in your world, Kath and I'd love
yeah,
to hear from you. Send us an email, reach out. We've got our membership. We've got our next group conversation happening next week. So if that's something you want to be part of a group where we sit in this space and have more conversations like this, you're very welcome to click on the link that's in the show notes and join us. We'd love to have you. But
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
because even as we've said, situations are a sign and outcome. Sometimes there is action
mm,
to take. So we'd
yeah,
love for you to join us if you're feeling
yeah,
like that's the next step for you. So
yeah,
yeah.
perfect. All right. Well, bless you. I'm so pleased to see you back here in Australia, and all the best with catching up and sorting out
Thanks, Ali.
life that needs sorting out. All right, bless you. Have a great day.
Cheers.